I usually go from here to here with one strong line like this and pull. This is a very fine pen. Could also use a thicker pen like a Sharpie like this. This is really a dully. I call them dullies because they're dull. Look, I'll show you. See, it's kind of dull. And that makes a nice line too, see? It just sizes the line, we call it, or makes, oh, there's that little one. I like that. And there's my orange. There's the center with the little lines. So here we are, we've drawn it in pencil, we see it in color, and now we're outlining it in ink and getting ready to paint. So you can see on the left where we're headed. So from the sketch or the tonal study to the drawing in pencil, to the inking. Final step is finished before we start, but I want you to erase all the pencil lines before we get started painting. So get your paints ready and let's watercolor. Today I'm going to be using the phthalo blue, the alizarin crimson, the azo yellow. And I have the cadmium red, some burnt sienna, some ultramarine, and some cobalt. These three are grainy paints, or granular. They tend to stay on top of the paper and they give a great effect. The cadmium makes a great highlight. So, first thing I'm going to do is do our local colors. The local colors are very simply when you make an orange, and you make a blueberry blue, a red apple red. So there's my two colors. Clean my brush every time. Important to keep your brush very clean. Add a little more red and add a little more of the azo yellow. And let's just check it on a piece of paper. I like to have another piece of paper beside me just to check. That's just fine. And all I'm going to do is give a flat wash to my orange. Now I probably have far too much paint on it. So what I want to do is get rid of some of the paint after I put one stroke on. And then all I do is boss it around. Leave a little bit of white somewhere on the orange. Just leave a little bit there. Now I take my brush, clean it, tap it, make sure it's dry, and I'll just push back a little bit of the orange here, kind of lift it a little bit. And then add one more good solid touch in the shadow area. That's complete. Now if I take a look at my orange, just put it right there, you'll see that it's close to what we have. Now the light source is from here on the orange, but the light source in my picture is from here. So that's why I've left that little area untouched. Where the cloth is, I'm going to just darken it a little bit, just tap it in like that. Clean it off. It's a matter of putting the paint on, drying your brush, and softening the edge. And leaving a little white. There we go. That's a good start for the orange. Next, what's the local color of the spoon? Well, actually it's brown. And a good way to make brown is take orange and add a little green to it. So I'm going to start with a fairly warm red orange on the spoons. We call that an underpainting. See? Just very simply. You know, it's really not much different than coloring when we were little. There's nothing hard about this. It's just calculated and very, I don't know, it's just fun to do. This was green. All I need to do is make a very light green. So I'm going to turn my little palette around here. You know, art words are funny. Some people call the paints they're using their palette. Some people call the thing they mix their paints on their palette. So in either case, both are right. So I'm going to take a little bit of the azo yellow, add a little water. Remember, in the beginning stages of a watercolor, keep the paints thin. Thin means more water. I cleaned the brush, you see. Now I take just the smallest touch of the phthalo blue and watch what that does. Not too bad. Think a little more. I'm looking at my cloth. Here's my cloth. See the cloth? It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I'm going to try and get a facsimile of the color. So I'll put a little more blue here. Hey, that's pretty decent. It's a cool green. And I give the cloth a flat wash. Once again, flat wash. Now there's different ways to do this. You can point the brush at the edge you're painting. And if you're ambidextrous, you can use both hands. I just like to twist and turn. And there we go. There's the cloth. The little berries. I'm going to bring in a little cadmium for the berries. If you don't have cadmium, that's quite all right. You can just use, oh, look at the cadmium. It just pops right out. Hey, if you ever have your paint do that, you can pull it back into the tube. That's enough cadmium for about 10 pictures. But this little guy was wanting to come out. So I take a tiny bit of the cadmium, very little water. And you know, there are cadmium light, cadmium medium, and cadmium dark. This is the dark. And I just do a flat wash with, the paint is fairly thick, but it's not like pasty. And I just put a little bit on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry, and later on I'll model it. I'm just concentrating on the local colors. Now I'm going to do some neutral colors. Now neutral colors are quite interesting. They're sometimes called gray, which in a way they are. You've grayed them, you've made them less pure. The true word is neutral, and basically a neutral color is a mixture of the three primaries, red, yellow, and blue. So here I've mixed a little bit of the green into the orange. It's made it a little dirtier, but you know, that's pretty, I'm just looking at that. It's a grayed color or a neutral brown, and I might put a drop of that into the already wet spoon, you see, because we're tending towards brown now. So how do I make it very brown? Well, a little bit more phthalo should bring it down. So now it's getting to be a greenish hue. See? A little more phthalo, a little more of this. And as I play with it, I can get pretty close to what most people would say is gray. Now for painting gray, if you're using the tint, tone, shade system, is black and white. But for here, this is working out nicely. Now it's not a very attractive color yet, so I'm going to bring up the blue spectrum. Just going to bring a little more blue into it because I'm thinking I'm going to have some pure blue somewhere. So there's a very attractive gray. It's a gray green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little water and I'm going to establish some gray tones on the picture. I don't have to cover everywhere. I'm going to skirt over the paper here to get some texture. See the texture there? I might even turn my paper around. Wiggle that brush right in there. Drop the paint in. Come up and leave a little texture here and there. There we go. I'm going to be pretty careful around here because the orange is on the spoon and I don't really want it to bleed into my neutral color here. This paper, if you've never used it, I would advise you get a little piece. You can buy a sheet for probably $12. Now, did I leave a little white somewhere? Yes, look. Now I'm pretty nice, I'm pretty pleased with that color. Now because the paper is wet, I can drop in a few dark areas, especially on the right and the left side of the picture. There. That's a good start. Now, I want a neutral color on here also, but this is green, so I'm thinking I will pull a little more orange into my neutral. See? See the little bit more orangey color? I'm just going to drop that in. It's warm. Now just very gently putting it on. Careful with the cadmium. Even though the cadmium's dry, because it's very pasty, I just have to touch it and it's going to bleed into here. And if it does, it's fine. I don't care. It won't hurt it. And up the side. Now, why am I going up the side of here? Well, like I was saying, you need some words when you're painting. This is a reflective surface. This is a surface. So light is bouncing everywhere. So a little bit of the warm table would bounce up into the side of this little cylinder on both sides. There we go. Okay. Now really, I've not been very complicated here. It's fairly straightforward. That's spread out nicely, so I can clean my brush again and maybe add a little more, another drop or two. See, that's a little warmer. It's a little bit of the table color. So mottled is nice. Mottled means it's not smooth everywhere. It's a little bit of everything. Look, it's kind of bled a little bit there, but I don't mind. That's great. There we go. And maybe take a little bit of the wall color and just mottle the bottom a bit. It won't stay like that. It'll change. And suggest the first shadow right there. Now I haven't done anything here because I'm not sure what to do there. Now let's take a look at the picture and talk design. Everything's a flat wash, which is great. It has a warm dominance, meaning the painting is on the warm side. Now I don't have any gradation here yet, so what I'm going to do is drop some of this in the corner. Gradation is when something goes from dark to light, rough to smooth, gradually. So there we go. So I have a little bit more interest in this corner. See, that's a little warmer. It's a little bit of the table color. So mottled is nice. Mottled means it's not smooth everywhere. It's a little bit of everything. Look, it's kind of bled a little bit there, but I don't mind. That's great. There we go. And maybe take a little bit of the wall color and just mottle the bottom a bit. It won't stay like that. It'll change. And suggest the first shadow right there. Now I haven't done anything here because I'm not sure what to do there. Now let's take a look at the picture and talk design. Everything's a flat wash, which is great. it has a warm dominance, meaning the painting is on the warm side. Now I don't have any gradation here yet, so what I'm going to do is drop some of this in the corner. Gradation is when something goes from dark to light, rough to smooth, gradually. So there we go. So I have a little bit more interest in this corner, see? The main activity, let's say, of a watercolor is that it dries lighter, not darker. So if your watercolor looks really good wet and you like it, when you come back, you'll find it's not quite as attractive as you thought because the paints will have sunk in. Now you see that's collecting on the side. So I'm going to, while I go away and let this dry, I'll put my brush under it so that it bleeds. And I'm going to take a little break. Adding the major chord colors, that's next. Rich, vibrant colors to make our still life come alive.